Hi students, welcome back to the video tutorial of business research method. In our previous video, we discussed true experimental research design. It is the second type of experimental research design. At that time, we discussed what is true experimental research design and what are the classification of true experimental research design. Now in this video we can discuss the remaining types of experimental research design. They are quasi-experimental research design and factorial design. So first we can discuss what is quasi-experimental research design. An experimental design without random assignment is called quasi-experimental design. I repeat, an experimental design without random assignment is called quasi-experimental design. In other words, the groups are not created through random assignment. Such type of experimental research design is known as quasi-experimental design. So, we can discuss what is quasi-experimental research design in detail. Quasi-experimental research design is similar to true experimental research design. This design also researchers select control group and experimental group for making study. But the selection of this group is not based on randomization. This is the main difference between true experimental design and quasi-experimental research design. So, a quasi-experimental research design involves the manipulation of independent variable to observe the effect on dependent variable. Quasi-experimental design is generally conducted to find out the cause and effect relationship between variable. So, quasi-experimental research design is generally conducted to find out whether there is a cause and effect relationship between the selected variable. This design is used the situation where the researcher is not able to select the variable through randomization. Now, we can discuss the main types of quasi-experimental research design. They are non-randomized control group design, time series design and counterbalanced design. So, first we can discuss what is non-randomized control group design. This design is most popularly used in social research. It is just like pre-test, post-test group design. The main difference between these two designs are in a non-random control group, there is no random selection. That means participants are not randomly assigned to this group, which means in this design, experimental and control groups are selected without randomization. In non-randomized control group design, researchers select two groups, that is experimental group and control group. Both these two groups are pre-tested. After that, only experimental group get treatment. After receiving treatment, both control group and experimental groups are post-tested. So, this is the working of non-randomized control group design. This design is also known as non-equivalent control group design. Now we can discuss what is time series design. It is the second type of quasi-experimental design. This is the extended version of one group pre-test post-test design. Time series design includes a series of periodic measurement on the dependent variable for a group of test unit. I repeat, time series design includes a series of periodic measurement on the dependent variable for a group of test unit. For more understanding of this design, look this diagram. Here researcher take an experimental group and make several pre-tests. Then researcher make some treatment to that group. After that, researcher conduct several post-tests. So, in this design, researcher repeatedly pre-tested and post-tested before and after the treatment. This is the difference of this design with the other design. Here the researcher repeatedly pre-tested and post-tested before and after the treatment. Now the last experimental design under the head quasi-experimental design are counterbalanced design. This design is used to equate the experimental and control group. In this design, treatments are given to all the groups in different order, and the number of groups should be equal to the number of treatments. In other words, if there are 2 groups, there should be 2 treatments. So these are all about quasi-experimental design. Now the last category of experimental design is factorial design. Factorial experimental design are those design which consist of 2 or more factor. This design is also known as statistical design. This design is mainly used to measure the effects of 2 or more independent variables at various levels. So once again, factorial experimental design are those design which consist of 2 or more factor. Here factor can be quantitative or qualitative. They may be name rather than numbers, like method 1, site B, or present or absent. So these are all about factorial design. So students, in this video we discuss 2 important types of experimental research design. They are quasi-experimental research design and factorial design. These 2 designs are most commonly used in experimental research design. So once again, experimental research design has 4 classification. They are pre-experimental research design, true experimental design, quasi-experimental design, and factorial design. Pre-experimental research design has 3 classification. They are one-shoot case study design, one group pre-test post-test design, static group comparison design. True experimental design has also 3 classification: post-test only control group design, pre-test post-test control group design, Solomon 4 group design. Quasi-experimental research design has non-equivalent control group design, time series design, and multiple time series design. Then the last one is factorial design. Here factorial design, there are 2 or more factors. So students, these are all about experimental research design and its type. So I think all you get a basic idea regarding experimental research design and its type. Now moving to the questions which is related to this area. They are: what is quasi-experimental design? Explain about non-equivalent control group design. Explain about time series design. Explain about counterbalanced design. And what is factorial design? So try to solve this question. Okay students, now we can wind up today's session. We can meet in our next video. Till then, bye.